Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new, my name is Lee, aka Rollin Thunder, and in today's video we are going to be talking about the successor to the much loved Yamaha R6, the Yamaha R7. So sit back, relax, grab yourselves a cup of tea, and let us get into the video. So ladies and gentlemen, how are we all doing? I hope you're all doing well. Unfortunately, you join me on a really shit Friday evening. The weather's not exactly great, it's windy as hell, and it's raining. But good news on the horizon, Yamaha have decided that they are going to release another middleweight sports bike. Now, as you all know, the Yamaha R6 was killed off at the end of last year, and now that Yamaha only make a track only R6, and what they've gone and done to try and keep the R family alive, shall we say, as well as having the R1, the R3, they have now brought out the R7. If you guys remember, years ago there used to be an R7 that used to run in World Superbikes back in the late 90s, but it didn't really get the accolation and the titles and stuff like that he deserved. If anyone remembers, a really well-known, well-loved factory rider, Noriyuki Haga. He was the pilot of that bike at that time, but unfortunately didn't really have a lot of success. However, Yamaha have breathed new life into the R7 name, and we are going to talk about it. So where should we begin? I suppose first thing we should really talk about is the styling. Now, with it being a sports bike, they've basically decided to try and keep the R line alive by making it look like the old R6. And believe it or not, the actual styling of the bike itself has divided opinion amongst journalists and riders alike. Personally speaking, I'm not really sold on it, but until I see one in the flesh, I don't really want to pass any judgment. And if you guys remember the videos I did during lockdown on the new Jigsaw 1000, no, not Jigsaw 1000, sorry, on the new Aprilia RSV4 1100 factory and the Kawasaki Ninja ZX10 and ZX10RR, you guys will know that I'm relatively, you know, open to different ideas and different styles and whatever else. And what I do like about this particular R7, they've kept with the traditional styling of the R6, but they're using the CP2 689cc engine out of the MT-07. So it's a punchy parallel twin. It's kicking out around 75 bhp with about 65 newton meters of torque. Now, it doesn't sound a lot, but considering it's coming, the actual motor itself is coming out of the old MT-07, or should I say the 2020-2021 MT-07, there is obviously a lot to be desired, because the MT-07 motor in that particular chassis was a lot of fun to ride, a lot of fun to mess around on. It was a proper hooligan bike. But now that they've put it in a sports bike chassis, it's going to be very interesting to see how well it performs. Personally speaking, I think it's going to do pretty decently. It's not going to be quite as good as the R6, primarily because it hasn't got as much power. But what I can tell you, from what I've seen in the press release and a couple of videos that are currently doing the rounds on YouTube, is that as well as having 75 bhp and 65 newton meters of torque, it's also got twin front radial monoblock calipers. They're very similar to the old R6 calipers, and also very similar to the standard R1 calipers, except for they're 4-pot, not 6. The actual overall styling of the bike is very much harking back to the R1 and the R6 of 2019-2020. The cockpit is a LCD screen, which in itself is quite nice looking. It's not the biggest screen in the world. I think it's something like a 3.5-4 inch screen, which is it's good for what it is, I'm not gonna lie. The downside is with the R7 being a traditional throttle cable system, it doesn't have any rider modes. Now, in some cases that might be a good thing, in others it might be a bad thing, because of the there won't be any sort of like rider modes and stuff like that. It just is what it is. So you either ride it ham-fisted or you ride it gently, you know, however you do. You know, there's not a lot electronically wise you can do with it. However, it does have, and I found this out today, as an optional extra, if you really want to, you can actually have a quick shifter on the R7. But the caveat to that is that it's only on upshifts, not down as well. So you can bang it through the boxes like full throttle, no drama whatsoever. But when it comes to downshifting, you've got to do it the old-fashioned way, which in a sense isn't that bad. Some people might like the idea of having an auto blipper as well as a quick shifter. I'm not really fussed by that, because I do think that's a downshifting on your own in a way is a little bit more appealing. I mean, I don't know, you tell me. I personally think it does make the actual riding experience a lot better, because you feel a little bit more involved in the actual process, in my opinion anyway. I do think, however, that Yamaha really did drop the ball on the styling just a little bit, and I'll explain my reasonings behind that in a moment. If you've seen pictures of the new R7, you'll probably know exactly what I'm talking about when I say this. But if you look at the actual front of the bike, like head on, it's got the same running lights as the R6 and very, very similar running lights to the R1. But the main headlight is smack bang in the middle of the air intake. Now, as a track bike, that's probably not a big problem, because you could just take the fucking headlight out and that could be a properly nice big ram air duct. So in a way, that's not a massive problem. But for street riding and street aesthetics, shall we say, it's not that great looking, if I'm honest. I mean, I do like the shape of the R6 and I do like the shape of the R1, but I do not like how open that tail unit is. And I like even less those running lights, those really pathetic, pointless LED strips. I mean, okay, they look pretty cool and everything else, I agree. You know, I'm not going to deny that the R6 does, the R1 and the R6 does look really, really good in that respect. But for me, I'm not really a fan. But that's just my opinion. Do you know what I mean? You know, people might say, oh, Lee, you don't know what you're talking about. You're not a style guru. You're this, you're that. You're blah, 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 whatever, whatever. But if it were me, and I'd been designing that the R7, personally, I think I would have, I probably would have left the headlight out of the air intake at the front. But like I said, that's just my opinion. I don't have an issue with the bike as a whole. I think it's a very good looking bike for what it is. I do think, however, that from a parallel twin, only 75 bhp isn't a lot. It might improve with time. You know, there might be people out there that make aftermarket kits for it and so on and blah, 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 blah. You can probably get big bore kits and stuff like that, and you can get power commanders and all that other stuff, which is fine. Do you know what I mean? But straight out of the box, I do think 75 bhp or 73, whatever it is, isn't enough, especially for a parallel twin. Because if anyone's heard what an MT-07 sounds like with a full exhaust system like an Acura or an Arrow or whatever, you know how good those bikes can sound. I know how good those bikes can sound because I've seen them, I've heard them, I've ridden next to them, I've had them ride past me. You know, I can tell you exactly what makes an MT-07 as good as what it is. But if you think about it, there are more than just a few little things that could be done to make the R7 a much better bike, if I'm honest. I mean, as people know, V-twins don't make power up high. You know, they make their power through the torque. And it's the same like with this, for example. It's got 160 bhp behind it, but it makes all its power between 8 and 11,000 RPM. So, you know, go figure. It is what it is, I guess. So that's the bike itself taken care of. Oh, and also, apparently, just one other thing. I read somewhere online that the R7 is going to come in 2 different colours. Either like a midnight matte black or a sort of say racing blue. And and I've seen what the blue one looks like. It actually looks really nice. I'm not normally a blue fan, but I do like the blue. The Yamaha blue is very, very nice. It always has been. But to see what it looks like in matte black, or any sort of black really, whether it be gloss or matte or whatever, I reckon it's going to look rather nice. And if anyone's seen an R1 in those matte colours, you'll probably agree as well. So where do I see this bike in the market? Like, who's it made for? Well, if it's anything like the MT-07, it's probably going to be aimed at people that are doing their A2 license, I would say. If it's using the same motor as the MT-07, I dare say it's going to be more than capable to give people smiles and giggles on an A2 license. I think it'll be more than appropriate, more than capable, I really do. With it looking like a sports bike, it's also going to give it a bit more presence on the road, I think. I mean, you look at, say, my bike. Yeah, okay, she's 12, 13 years old, whatever. But guess what? My bike still holds itself on the road. It's got more than enough presence to keep people out of the way. It's got more than enough presence to be noticed. And I think that's one of my bike's endearing features. You don't have to ride it fast or hard to get to where you're going. And you don't have to ride it hard and fast to get noticed. But that's just my opinion, do you know what I mean? But I honestly believe that the R7 could have a very, 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 very big following. Maybe not now, but in a couple of years, once it's established, I do honestly believe that it'll be very, very, very popular. You know, a 700cc parallel twin with not a huge amount of power behind it, but enough to get you into trouble, and also enough to have a lot of fun with. It's gonna be more than enough. Can we just appreciate how shit this weather is? You know, I've been on the bike for 10 minutes, I am soaked to the skin. Let's just appreciate that for a second. So back to the Yamaha R7. Do I think it's going to be a big hit? Yes, definitely. Where's it going to be priced at? I don't really know yet. I suspect it's probably going to be priced at around about the £11,000–12,000 mark, I would say. But the real question is, what sort of competition is it going to have when it finally hits the showroom floors? And if I'm honest, there's only really two. And those two bikes are Honda's CBR 650R and Kawasaki's Ninja 650. Those are the only real two bikes that are in the same sort of, you know, weight and power category. But whether they're going to be any sort of competition for it, that remains to be seen. I do think as well that the R7 will do well in the Super Sport 600 class. I mean, yeah, okay, it's a parallel twin and it's a 689cc engine, but I do think, with the benefit of hindsight and a little bit of engineering and a little bit of finangling, you know, call it what you want, but with some work done to it, like engine wise, a little bit of development, I reckon that the R7 could be quite a handy bit of kit, especially on track, in my opinion. I mean, no one really knows what exactly the R7 is going to be capable of. I mean, we can only really speculate at a minute, but I suspect it's going to be capable of quite a bit. Like I've already said, it hasn't got a huge engine, it hasn't got a huge amount of power, but what it does have on its side is agility and weight. The R7 is approximately, this is fully loaded with a full tank of gas and oils and whatever else, 185 kilos wet. Now whether that's the curb weight in street form or whether it's in track trim, that remains to be seen, but that's the figures we've been told, or the figures that I've discovered today. And for a bike that's that light, you don't really need a lot of power. I mean, having the extra power is lovely and everything, but you don't necessarily have to have a shit ton of power underneath you to make the bike handle well. For example, you could look at the from back in the day, the Aprilia RS 125. It was a 125cc bike, but it handled so fucking well. You could then look at the like the Aprilia RS 250 or the Honda CBR 125. All great bikes in their own right, but they weren't heavy. And it just goes to show that you don't need a lot of power to have a bit of fun. But anyway, I digress. So far we've discussed the R7's looks, we've discussed its power, we've discussed its price and its ancillaries. We've also talked about who the bike would be good for. Would the bike be good for a seasoned rider like someone like myself? If I'm honest, I don't know. I mean, because I've been riding this bike for so long, I've had this for 4 years now, so I'm used to 160 bhp. Could I see myself coming off this and jumping onto a 75 bhp bike just to see what it's like? Yeah, I probably could. I mean, yeah, okay, it's a parallel twin. You can't really get away with that. You can't get away from that fact. It's a twin. Does it sound like a good sounding twin? If it's anything like the MC07, that engine is going to sound absolutely amazing with a decent exhaust on it. So I would have to say the jury's out on that fact. I would love to say that the R7 is going to be a great sounding bike or a great handling bike, but we won't know until we see it on the showroom floor. Another aspect of the R7, which I think is a little bit of a letdown, not by much, but a little bit, it could do with fly-by-wire throttle, so that you can tailor the riding mode. So say for example, if someone's new to the road and they're used to riding a twist and go 125 that's got like 13 bhp, jumping on a 690 or 700cc twin may not be ideal for them. So being able to tame the power down would be a benefit. It's not a massive thing, but it's something that would bolster the whatchamacallit, it would bolster the confidence of the bike, especially for people that are new to the road. I mean, everyone's been there, everyone's been a learner. You know, you have to start somewhere, and trying to start on a 690 or let's just call it a 700cc twin, yeah? We won't call it a 680, 690, we'll just call it a 700cc twin. When you're learning, you know, learning your road craft and all that sort of stuff, trying to go batshit crazy on a 700cc twin as soon as you pass your test, you're just going to end up hurting yourself or hurting someone else. So there is actually no point. For someone like me, because I've got the experience and I've been on the road for 17 years or there or thereabouts, that jigsaw was so loud, I can get away with being a bit more ham-fisted with it because I've got the experience. You know, you can't expect someone who's just passed their CBT or just passed their test riding around on L plates and expect them to know how to handle a 700cc twin. It just doesn't work like that. It really don't. But you know, there are going to be people out there that they literally get on it and they'll gel with it straight away. I mean, if that works out for you, then do you know what I mean? All power to you. If not, you're actually better off starting on a 125 and then working your way up the ranks. That's just my opinion. You know, you can take it or leave it. Also, I will apologise for the amount of shitty weather that we've got in a minute. I would love to be able to ride with my visor down all the time, but thanks to this crappy weather and that I'm wearing a tinted visor, it is not exactly easy for me right now. So I do apologise about the noise. I do apologise about the shouting. This wind is fucking abysmal. I kid you not, ladies and gentlemen. The wind that I had to deal with this morning, I could not see, I could not control the bike in a straight line properly. It was just, no, it just wasn't happening. But anyway, I digress. So in a nutshell, what do we think of the R7? Personally, I think it's pretty good. I think it's a pretty cool little bike. I think it will do very well. I think it'll be very popular. Get out of my way, slow cunt. And if I'm honest, I think it will actually outsell a lot of the other 600s that are on the market at the minute. I mean, naturally, It will never sell as many as the R6 did, or at least I don't think it will, if I'm honest. But all the same, I do still think that it'll be a very, very popular bike. Like I've already said, it'll be very popular for those on A2 licenses and all those sort of people that are literally just getting out on the road and stuff like that. I do think it'll be very good for those guys. I think it'll be very good for people that are coming back to the road after being off the road for however many months, years, whatever. You know, there's born again bikers as you get. Price point, I'm just literally speculating now because I don't have a clue. I would have to say, for what it is, it's probably going to be somewhere in the region of about maybe 10 grand. But like I said, that's a complete guess on my part, so don't take that as gospel. All the other information, however, that I've given you guys today, that is straight from Yamaha Direct, or Yamaha UK even. So with that in mind, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got something out of it. If you've got any questions, please feel free to drop it in the comments box down below, and I will do my very best to try and answer each and every one of your questions. I would also like to say thank you for all the support. Thank you for the subscribers. You know, without you there wouldn't be a channel, so thank you again. So for now, this is me, Lee, aka Rollin Thunder, saying look after yourselves, look after each other, stay safe on the road, stay away from COVID-19, try and stay away from the shitty rain that we're having. As always, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, adios!